Hey guys, what's up? This is Swift here for Chinese Tech, and today we are going to do a little discussion on display resolutions and whether is it necessary or not for us to keep pursuing a higher resolution display, especially with manufacturers coming out with 1440p, that is 2560 by 1440 resolutions on your smartphone screens that are as small as 5 inch to say 5.7 inch. So we have to answer whether is it really necessary for such resolutions. Now what you're looking at the background right now are two phones that are, one is 1080p and the other is 720p. They're both playing similar content, same source, so you can try to compare and look. Obviously looking through a camera isn't going to be do any justification to the comparison, but you will get a slight idea on how it actually looks. So first thing first, before we go into the discussion, I would like to teach you guys two terms that you should understand before you go into talking about display resolutions. Now, first thing first is the term display resolution or screen resolution, what exactly it is. So basically, screen resolution is the amount of pixels that you have within a given space. So say if your screen is a 5-inch screen, so within that 5-inch, how many pixels you have. So if it's a full HD resolution, say 1920 by 1080, you basically multiply both numbers, and that is the number of pixels you have within that 5-inch screen. Now the next thing that you hear very often is pixel density. Now it is usually counted in PPI, that is pixel per inch. So it basically means that how many pixels are there within a given inch, or there are other measurements as well, but it's just the density of that. So basically in a given inch, how many pixels you have. So obviously if the space is 5-inch and it is a 1080p resolution, obviously it will be a denser pixel density. You'll have a higher pixel density compared to a 720p 5-inch screen. So now there's one thing that you will have to take note, is that through observations, and you can basically do your own Google research, etc., is that the human eye, the unaided human eye, can only tell differences up to 300 pixel per inch. That is 300 ppi. So for things such as like a retina display on your iPhone 5s, etc., it has a pixel density of 326 ppi. Basically, if you have that and you compare it to, say, another 4-inch full HD screen, which has possibly about much higher PPI, you will not be able to tell the difference. Technically, you will not be able to tell the difference. So that is one thing you have to take note. The unaided human eye, 300 ppi, and anything above, we cannot tell much difference. Theoretically speaking, a higher pixel density will allow you to have a better, a clearer, a more detailed image. As you can imagine, in a same confined space, you have more pixels to work with. Technically, that will give you better detail in terms of color or in terms of portrayal, etc. So higher pixel density technically is better. But again, because the human eye cannot tell anything above 300 pixels per inch, so there is not much difference in terms of visual experience once you hit the peak. Now we move on to the thing about screen estate. Screen estate is basically the workable area that you can have within a given display. So say if you have a 1080p 27-inch monitor, compare that to a 1440p 27-inch monitor. The 1440p resolution monitor will have a larger screen estate for you to work with. Now with that said, does this apply to your smartphones? And now the answer is no, mainly because the display size is just too small and it is the limiting factor, and therefore you will not be able to increase screen estate even if you have a larger resolution. Forget high pixel density and focus on optimal pixel density that is best for you. What I'd like to suggest that instead of focusing on how high that pixel density can go, like how all these new manufacturers are trying to push and market their phones, focus more on the optimal pixel density that is best for you. The main thing here is that our eyes are the limitation to our visual experience. So no matter how dense a display can go, there is no realistic impact on our experience. So why would anyone want to have a higher resolution then? Now technically for games and such, you will have a better visual experience. is more colorful, more detailed. The edges are definitely going to be smoother, etc. So it is going to be overall a better experience. Now the next thing is that if you have 1080p content to view, technically a 1080p display can make full use of that. But as you can see, the two different phones here that are playing the different source of 720p as well as 1080p, you can tell that you cannot tell rather that there is much difference at all. Do note as well that if you want to run a higher resolution, be it games or videos, it will be much more taxing on your phone's hardware. So if you do not have a graphics processor that is strong enough, especially in these Chinese phones, 1080p content, especially games, will not run smoothly at all. It ultimately boils down to the source that you're playing from. So if your video is 480p, don't expect a 1080p display to produce better experience as compared to a 720p display. So your source is the main contributing factor, and if you have a lousy source, you're going to have lousy experience altogether. So which to choose from, if any? Now obviously newer manufacturers, as in newer phones that are produced by manufacturers out there, they are getting full HD, and now they're being pushed for 1440p or higher and higher resolutions in the future. So technically you do not have much to choose from. So if you have a choice, my suggestion is that you look at both phones, and if and only if the hardware is totally the same except for the display, and that the 720p display one or the lower resolution one is cheaper by say 15 to 20%, then you choose that phone. Otherwise, just always go for the higher resolution phone, mainly because as manufacturers are producing and researching in all these higher resolution displays, they are also focusing on the technology that goes behind it. So technically, if you're paying for a 1080p screen, you're paying for better technology, a newer technology. So it's altogether a much better and more value buy. Unless, of course, you're buying a phone just to play games, then obviously that you have put into consideration as well.